Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio, the 2019 year edition. I'm your host in orange, a big and furry bovine. Joining me is Brian. I do know that Jake was trying to join us, but he's having technical difficulties, and that would be nothing new. As far as 2019 has been a series of technical difficulties now, hasn't it? I just want to say hi to the people in the chat room. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Rick. Hi, Derek Frisbee. Yeah, that's right. Rick May. Yep. Podrick, how you doing? Just people checking in. And, of course, it's big news in Cleveland land because Freddie Kitchens has been killed off. And we give all credit due to this scary piece of vinyl who, once again, did his job in the clutch. Unlike so many of the Browns players, this guy is dependable, reliable, but unfortunately, again, he killed off too many other people in the offing. So literally in the offing.
Including a small plane crash in Louisiana.
Yeah, I mean, no, that was Buddy Holly, wasn't it? Hello, Doggy Bones. Hi, D-Bag. How's everybody doing? The name of the show partially today is Auld Lang Syne? ? I don't know. Maybe all things should be forgotten. I don't know. 2019
can we start with forgetting Josh fucking McDaniels coaching the goddamn Cleveland Browns? Can we forget that? Jesus H. Christ. Do you really want that fucking weaselly loser coaching the fucking Cleveland Browns? He is not going to win more than fucking 6 goddamn games in the 2 years that he is going to decimate this fucking team. Okay? I don't want Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels is perfectly happy where he is in his little shit box in New England. Keep him in fucking goddamn Boston. For all you FUCKTARDs, fucktards who want Josh McDaniels, go fucking fuck yourself. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah, and I got to say that anybody who turns down multiple gigs and he ends up staying in New England anyway, waiting for Bill Belichick to die, which, speaking of, he wants to be the successor to the Belichick cheating legend. God bless him. But we know that New England, assistant coaches and all, the Belichick tree does not yield fruit. Let's just put it that way. This is really part of what a lot of people are saying, Mark, that none of the names mentioned excite anybody. But before we get into the people we don't want, I always say that people often create their own epitaphs. I mean, a lot of people on their graves, their epitaph is something given to them by somebody else. But some people in a remarkable kind of way create their own epitaphs. And the dumb fucker Freddie Kitchens would be one of them as well. There's Derek Frisbee as well. Hi, Derek. How you doing?
Oh, lovely. What can I say?
Yeah. I mean, Freddie Kitchens, it was perfect. It couldn't have been more blindsiding, except the fact that he's blind, okay? So he would get blindsided by most anything. He's doing his post-game conference, and while it's going on, asshole Haslam and his wife announced that he's no longer with the team, and he's still doing the goddamn presser. It's like, under pressure. Hi, Rick. How you doing?
Doing good, sir.
It's like, wow. How's that for a tightly knit, tightly run organization? It's like, meanwhile, you knew what was going on. The Browns backstage, I could have sworn there was, like his new shadow puppets. When Freddie Kitchens was there doing his presser, And when the thing was released, I could see like a little hand puppet of Odell Beckham going like this. I don't know what that was all about. So what did Freddie say before he left? Yeah, I'm looking forward to next year. And when he was contacted by the press to let him know after his presser, that was like, no, dude, like you're gone. And he goes, well, I thought management had my back. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought management had my back. You couldn't be right down to dementia victim. Okay. I mean, this guy's clueless. He's delusional. And this is who we wanted to read defenses, and he can't read people. He was unable to read any of his players to find out how to motivate them, how to discipline them. And his own epitaph is, I thought management had my back. That sums up Freddie Kitchens in one humble epitaph. Unreal.
Though, I'll say this about Freddie. I might be the only one here saying this. But I tell you, I mean, just from a person perspective, I feel bad for him because he was put in a position that he should have never been in. And yeah, are things that happened this season his fault? Absolutely. But really, to me, this all falls down on Dorsey or the Haslams, whoever made the final decision, because you should have known damn well that this was not going to work out. You put the man who had hardly any experience, he already talked about this, at the highest level, of the team, coaching it. I mean, I feel bad for him because it's like, you know what? At the end of the day, for me, it's really not all on him. It should be on whoever hired him. And I don't know if you've seen the report. Everybody's saying it's Monken who said this, but somebody anonymous in the Browns coaching said that the day-to-day operations was one of the worst that they've ever seen as far as game plan and practice and camps. So it's like, I mean, this is all that we expected.
You know something? People will expect, me to have my sympathies. I have no sympathy at all, or sympathy. There's a word for you. I got no sympathy. Neither does you, Paul.
Sorry, so I have no sympathy.
I don't have a timpani either.
I had a timpani. No. And I didn't even like Tiffany when she performed in the mall. I don't know.
Neither her nor Debbie Gibson, for God's sake. No.
And I don't know, Diana Ross still hears a symphony. And I don't know, that was a long fucking time ago. Woo, woo. All right. I don't have no sympathy whatsoever. No sympathy for this guy. Take the story of Pinocchio, shall we? We have Geppetto, the guy who has this wood carving, and the love that he puts into it makes, Pinocchio turn into a real boy, right? And what a heartwarming story Pinocchio was when we were kids. But what if Pinocchio grew up to be Hitler? What then? What happens when a person, a fucking piece of wood should never have been a boy in the first place? This is the argument we're doing with Freddie Kitchens. Well, he should never have been a head coach to begin with. I agree. But you know something? When you give him the position and he becomes Hitler, then it's not something to feel sorry for. This guy shattered people's, potentially their careers, their attitudes, where they're going to play next year, their value on the open market, out of petty shit. And he would do anything to keep his power. Fuck Freddie Kitchens right up there. Just like, what Brian was saying earlier in the show, about Josh McDaniel. Fuck him. You don't want the job 2-3 years ago? Fuck you. We don't want you now. Okay? And we don't even want to interview you because you're probably filming it for Bill Belichick. Fuck you. All right. No, that's all right. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, Patrick. Quack, 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 quack. 9 for 24. Quack, quack. Hey, Steelers fans. Quack, quack, quack. Fuck you.
Hey, did you see Njoku's interview earlier?
Yeah. I mean, he's hoping to come back to Cleveland now that Freddie's gone. I mean, that's going to be the greatest. What was it? The greatest location in the nation? Big Chuck and Little John.
Yep.
You know,
Best location in the nation.
Hey, maybe him and Higgins will actually see the field for once.
Yeah. I mean, and there are going to be lots of people who express sympathy because he wasn't qualified. All right, but I mean. I don't see a lot of people in the political realm saying, I feel sorry for insert politician president. I feel sorry for Barack Obama because he really went from a community organizer to being a senator, a young senator, to being a president, and he really wasn't ready for the job. Or, I really think that Donald Trump couldn't have been ready for the job because he was just on The Apprentice a few years ago. It's like, something, I don't want to hear that bullshit. I mean, the fact of the matter is he got his chance. He failed. All right. Now he has to pick up his life back to Alabama, and he's going to be with Ellie Mae and the Clampett family doing whatever the fuck he does. I want to hear about him because I don't feel sorry for him. He had an opportunity. And he used his power and his position to hurt other people and to try to strengthen himself. And believe me, I don't know whether Dorsey's going to survive or not. All right.
You know what though? Here's the thing: is if he would have just stopped with his own ego and just gave up play calling and gave it to Monken. Odds are he still has a job. So, I see what you're saying there, but
yeah. No, little TYG. How many yards was Chubb short of the rushing title?
Quite a bit, because
I think
Henry lost his mind. He ran for 211 yards yesterday.
Who did?
Derrick Henry. We were all worried about McCaffrey, and meanwhile, Henry just blew right on by Chubb.
Oh, man.
1,500 some yards.
Last game of the season, last plays of the season. Fucking Chubb gets screwed now, doesn't he?
Tennessee had to, fight to get that annual 9-7 record.
Yeah.
But they're in the playoffs. They're playing New England.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, that's what it's about. It's rising to the occasion. Thanks for bringing that up, little TYG. I wouldn't have thought of that. I was too busy ranting about, my lack of sympathy for Freddie Kitchens. And something, really honestly, I mean, there are some people who are stupid, uneducated, fat, slovenly, who I really do feel sorry for because they never had a chance to get out of their environment and their circumstance. But here's a guy who would have killed everybody around him, would have killed Dorsey. He would have killed everybody he could until he just raped the organization of whatever he could, and then he would have gone off, and he would have left us in a far worse position than we are right now. So I don't feel sorry for him.
Kind of like Josh McDaniels did to Denver.
Yeah. Of course, Steven wants the link again. He doesn't seem to realize it's on the YouTube stream, so I'll do that just because I'm a nice guy, and we're heading into a new year. What can I tell you? There you go. The Bengals did a good job in defending an offensive line that really wasn't motivated to play. The Bengals didn't stop anybody all year, so it wasn't hard stopping the Cleveland Browns, quite honestly. Look at that. Derrick Henry finished with 1,540 yards. Oh, day. Unbelievable. Hey, Hammer Time. What's up, man?
Oh my God. I'm so glad. I just wanted to take the gas pipe.
Why?
The lack of they lost the fucking Bengals. I mean, seriously. And he thought he was going to keep his job with a 6-10 season and that effort. Oh my God, this guy's done.
Wait. Who dat make you lose your job now? Who dat? Oh my God! It's just like
they were making progress.
You know what I want to do? I wanted after he found out that he was fired, it would be like if you could teleport one image, and it would be Ickey Woods doing the shuffle in front of him. Be fucking perfect. Perfect. I mean, the perfect time and place to bring the Icky Shuffle back, right in front of that dumb Southerner. I mean, and on so many levels, because Icky is now probably fatter than Freddie is, and maybe equally uneducated. But he won, okay? That's the important thing. He won the Battle of Ohio. Unbelievable. So, no, I don't feel sorry for Freddie Kitchens. And the players obviously don't either. A number of the guys in the locker room, were basically, and I think the greatest one was Jarvis Landry, and it's like, what do we need? What do we need? Leadership, just leadership, Landry said.
Subtle.
Christian Kirksey, who, thank God, watched it not on the field. We need a guy that's an exceptional leader, as the Haslams have already said. A guy who knows football and can win games.
Sounds like Tom Coughlin to me.
Yeah. I mean, there's no love for this guy in the locker room. I mean, like Petonio said, it's like put up or shut up time, and whatever they do, they do. Whatever Baker, whatever they do, they do. I'm on board for whatever they do. And OBJ basically saying, I'm going to really work hard in the offseason. Thank God Freddie is dead. Thank God. So no, it's not like anybody misses the guy, and he'll spend more time with his girlfriend/sister, which is very good news for Freddie.
They do that in Alabama,
That they do. That they do their own. That is correct. I don't know. Up close and personal. All right. 18 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. The Browns gambled on hiring Freddie Kitchens in the first place. Yeah, some gamble. Now, what they're saying is that this gamble, it might have been Dorsey who wanted the dumb Southerner, and D, pedophile, who wanted the Stefanski from Tony the Calf's, witless team. So, boy, there's a great choice between those two guys. Do you think you have a successful NFL head coach? I don't think so. But what this means in the great scheme of things, and I had forgotten about this, and I think a lot of fans probably forgot about it. When you have this infusion of new talent, and Baker's going to be better in his, in this next year, the second year that he was in his first, and all of that stuff. And yeah, OBJ, and then Landry was going to be strong, and then you had Chubb coming back, and you got Kareem Hunt, and lost in the blaze of glory that the Browns were supposed to be in 2019 was the fact that we still had Jimmy Haslam's lucky charm. And his lucky charm,
just for you, Patrick.
the analytics guy, So now it's a battle of the experience of Dorsey versus the analytics, and I will do my white accountancy voice. The analytics of the situation. So. And this is something that, believe me, never died and never went away. And we were all wondering, why is DePodesta still with this organization? And the answer is, Jimmy wants him there. Because he has Jimmy's ear now more so than ever. DePodesta will say, now you see, I told you that Stefanski was the better choice. And we are interviewing him this time, aren't we? Woo! Yeah, woo! We're going to do that. We're going to interview him. Woo! Where's the truck stop? I need to get blown. Woo! So, what can I tell you? There's still a fracture in the front office because this is the, tug of war. between analytics and experience. And DePodesta didn't even know baseball that well. I really don't want this. I really don't fucking want this, you know? To hire a coach who never coached and to rely on a guy who's never managed, it's like, no, make it stop, please. Hello, Winfred Ford. Mo. No, that's Moo. Maybe Momu. I don't really appreciate puns. I just want to point that out, Daniel. And my power is growing with this organization. And the reason you know is because the new symbol of the Cleveland Browns is a very small penis. And that is really me. I'm a needle dick bug fucker analytics person. The person you hated growing up with the slide rule, remember? You know, I was going like this when I was supposed to be going like this. That's what we got. We got the battle between analytics. It's the new battle of Ohio. So we lose. The fans automatically lose. So right off the bat, that bothers me because we've got that going on. And who knows who will be at the top. You know, the Vikings were 10-6, and all I heard Tony the Calf saying is, damn it, I keep falling asleep when you're blowing me. And, you know, Stefanski's overrated. Stefanski's overrated. That's all, I mean, over and over in his Twitter feed. So it's not like Vikings fans think that Stefanski was the great answer to anything. All right. Here's, you know, and there's a bunch of names. We'll talk about a bunch of names in a minute. But here's what I believe before we even go into this thing. There is a better way of approaching this. Wait, we have some people waiting to get into the show. We have Sega Geek. Hey, Sega Geek, are you trolling the show, dude?
No, man. No.
No, what's up then?
Oh, not much, man. Yeah, just disappointed about the Brown season, but was given a Great Lake Christmas gift, you know, with Freddie Kitchens being fired.
It's beginning to look a lot like, well, I guess it already was. Christmas came late. Hey, what's up, Steven? So
I owe you an apology. I thought that Jimmy Haslam was dumb as a box of rocks, but he actually grew a pair and fired Kitchens.
Yeah. Now, Sega Geek, where are you from?
I am actually from Wisconsin.
Really? What part of Wisconsin?
Northeast.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So you do like cheese, don't you?
Yeah.
Cheese and cheap beer.
I love it.
I was never a Packer fan, though. It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. They used to make gay pornography movies for Packer lovers.
God!
I know. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. But you know, the whole program is wrong.
It will be a long show if you want me to talk about Packer fans.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, is Channel 3 still around?
I wanted to do something tasteless before the end of this year. This is about as tasteless as it gets. This goes into the too soon file. Incoming Georgia Tech freshman Bryce Gowdy dies. He's died. A freight train hit Gowdy early Monday morning in his hometown of Deerfield Beach, Florida. That's on the other coast from me. 17 years old, where he died at the hospital. A freight train hit him.
Did he have a part-time job as a hobo? What the hell?
I was thinking of Sheldon Redwine yesterday, you know.
Maybe he was looking at his iPhone and just crossed the random railroad track or something.
It's maybe playing chicken. That's
Oh, he'll go around.
Hey, Mr. Moohead, do you want to hear another bizarre story? They said some little kid had a heart attack while taking off on the airplane. How often do you hear about a child dying from a heart attack?
Yeah, Georgia Tech. That's 2 recruits.
And Bobby Beathard's grandson was stabbed to death outside of a bar in Nashville.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. A plane went down, and it turned out to be LSU head coach's daughter-in-law, something like that.
Well, she used to be in Cleveland.
Wow.
Yeah.
So at any rate, I wanted to at least insert a tasteless thing because, I promise that in 2020 I will be more tasteless. Okay, so just as but I wanted to get the more conservative tastelessness out of my soul. There are a bunch of names, and we all know who the candidates are. Of course, I'm not going to even mention Josh McDaniels for fear of Brian having an aneurysm. He already started out this. If you want to know what he thinks, go back and watch the beginning of the show. He'll tell you everything you need to know. Okay. Greg Roman, he'd have a great nickname in Northeast Ohio, Roman Burger. Okay, it was
or Roman Meal.
Yeah.
He's named after a bread company. There you go.
Or if he were Harvey Weinstein, he'd be Roman Fingers.
Hey, Mr. Moorhead, not that it matters. Do you have any thoughts on the Clemson-Ohio State game?
No. I mean, everyone's going to,
A great team won the game. Period.
Yeah, honestly, Ohio State didn't do what they had to do, and they didn't get off to their prototypical massive lead. And when they did get up early in the game, the big plays did them in. And then when Dobbins, hobbled off the field, it hurt the momentum of the team. And, and let's be honest about it. I mean, Dabo knows how to win the big games, and Ryan's still learning about this. But it's tough when you're dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. Anything can happen. At
16-0, though, I'm thinking Ohio State's going to blow the roof off that stadium.
Especially after what we saw LSU do, right, to Oklahoma. Yeah. So, we thought, oh, boy, it's going to be the Buckeyes and LSU, and that's that. But you don't know what's going to happen, although I think we all have an idea that LSU is going to crush them. We don't know that because –
No, I think it's going to be another tight game because Clemson's really fucking good.
But Mr. Moorhead, not to add insult to injury here, but many people argued that Ohio State should have been given the number 1 seed and should have played Oklahoma in round 1 and not.
Then they would have lost in the second round. The bottom line is it's sudden death, and that's the way it works. And with young players, it's a week-to-week thing, and with a program that, and again, it's a bad look when the Big Ten, a dominant school like that, comes in and, they lose to an SEC team. It's a really good SEC team, but it's going to once again propagate the notion that the SEC is, of course, where all the action is at in college football. And it would be hard to argue otherwise. It was a close football game, but, they pulled it out.
And next year, when they do the power rankings on the AP poll, all the teams you see in the top 10 will be the exact same. Maybe a couple of changes, but it'll be the exact same.
Yeah,
I wish Wisconsin was in the top 10, but you guys kind of ruined that for us.
Well, you get another shot at playing in the Rose Bowl. Be happy.
I thought
you guys always humiliate us every freaking time.
Well, the Buckeye fans can live vicariously through Burrow for another game or two, I suppose.
Yeah, and thank you. I'll consider this D-bag. But you might just get enough Mondays and Fridays that you don't want to add. I'm like the gift that keeps giving. You don't need this very often, believe me.
A little goes a long way.
So,
that Taco Tuesday, we can come up with Tasteless Tuesday.
There you go. My feeling is this. You're not going to get a guy who's got everything. What you need, and I know why Ron Rivera was the hot ticket. And although the one thing I would tell you about Ron Rivera is that he never had back-to-back winning seasons. he would go from being 11-5 to 6-10, just like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was up and down, up and down, up and down. And that's not a guy who's building an organization toward anything. It's a guy who momentarily is here and there, and the team is responding, they're not responding. It's like being in a windstorm, whichever way the wind is blowing, that's the way your team goes. That's not the kind of leader I want.
Well, and the team was built very thin. So when they started having injury issues with Cam Newton and Luke Kuechly, you had both of your top players out of the game. They were just shitsville.
Yeah, I think this time you saw the car derailing once Cam Newton started becoming kind of fragile in the last 2 years. That you kind of saw that train wreck coming, and I think it was Ron Rivera's been there for 10 years, I believe. Cam Newton's been there since 2009. I think it was time to pull the cord on both of those two for Carolina's sake.
And here's what I think. And I'm going to go against the grain in this. The one thing that was good about Ron Rivera is that he was a defensive player and that he was a defensive-minded person. I like a defensive head coach for the Cleveland Browns, but let me tell you why.
Okay.
I don't believe in a head coach coming in, just bringing in all of his people and whatever bozo he wants to give the offensive coordinator position to. We get Lovie Smith to death. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing that can happen. And then you have these great defensive years, but you can't put points on the board. My feeling is I would love to have a prolific defensive head coach who can teach toughness to not just the defense, but to the offensive line, and can impart a sense of really getting dirty under the fingernails of the players, so that toughness is coming from the main guy on the field.
And Mr. Moulett, is there any head coach that you can think of that carries those traits?
Well, I mean, not in my opinion, somebody who, Caldwell, Saleh is a guy from the 49ers. If he's a bright young mind, what you need is an infuser of energy into the organization. Somebody who is really able to come in and whip some butt and get people excited about playing in Cleveland. The offensive coordinator's position in Cleveland needs to be in the hands of somebody who's a specialist in that, who calls the plays. The head coach needs to be in charge of the whole operation and imparting his personality and imprinting his will onto the roster of players. And I would rather have a guy who is able to motivate people as my head coach than a guy who runs trick plays, or, we saw that Freddie couldn't motivate anybody. And if we look at the history, Pat Shurmur got fired on the same day, basically, as Freddie did. These people were all from the offensive side of the ball, supposedly, but they didn't have fire. Freddie may have had fire toward his own players when they threatened him. Shurmur had no fire whatsoever. He was extinguished at birth. As a matter of fact, he may have been the one lone abortion survivor, okay? And now he's gone. We've seen a bunch of coaches who were supposed to make a difference from an offensive perspective and didn't. And we wound up with offensive coordinators like Steve Crosby, or Brian Daboll, and people who never amounted to anything. I want the best offensive coordinator to concentrate on Baker, the wide receivers, and the scheme. And I want him to call the fucking plays. And that may mean, I don't know, Lincoln Riley wants to come back and get his ass slaughtered in the future at Oklahoma. God bless him. But if you really want to be a head coach in the NFL, there's not many Freddie Kitchens opportunities when you go basically from a motorhome into that kind of a position. There are, however, plenty of opportunities for successful offensive coordinators, and a guy like Lincoln Riley should be an offensive coordinator in the NFL first. And I know you'll never convince him of that because from an economics perspective, he's the man in Oklahoma. But be that as it may, I'm just telling you all the truth, that is the way to become a head coach of the NFL. I mean, even Josh McDonald, for God's sakes, is going to be interviewed by multiple teams, and that guy's a douchebag. So, you know,
yeah,
so
and he's probably going to fake him out too.
Yeah,
Just
that's
like
right.
He did to the Colts.
Yeah, I mean, but let's look for a guy who can put his imprint on this organization. And with that in mind, I don't see Josh McDaniels as one of those. Greg Roman, I don't see him as one of those. Robert Saleh, I see him as a defensive coordinator right now. So why would he leave the 49ers? Because he's certainly not ready to be a head coach in the NFL, but I keep him out of the corner of my eye. Kevin Stefanski is a midline offensive coordinator. Don't need him. Mike McCarthy, you know something, when I was a kid, I was exposed to boxing, and you know, growing up, I watched all kinds of fights, and every so often the fights would come into Canton in Ohio. We did have some good fighters who were in that general area. Ernie Shavers was out from Warren Way. We know about Ray Mancini and, you know, Kelly Pavlik afterwards. You get to know people. We have Ronnie Harris from Canton, Ohio, from the '68 Mexico City Olympics. And when they were looking for a stiff for Ronnie Harris to beat, they got a hold of a guy who used to be the middleweight who was from Canton, Ohio, and his name was Marion Connor. And Marion Connor at one time was what I would call a really good trial horse, but not a guy who was ever going to become champion. And he became homeless. And everybody knew Marion Connor as the homeless guy. And they brought back Marion Connor to fight Ronnie Harris. And it was a travesty. It should never have been done. But what they said in order to hype this was the new and improved Marion Connor. And it's like, what? He was pushing pencils on the street in a cup, and that's what made him new and improved? That's what we keep saying and hearing about Mike McCarthy, you know? He's been taking this last season to really upgrade his whole act, and he's the new and improved Mike McCarthy. And it's like, you know, let's move on from that.
Why couldn't they just simply say, like, he's been coaching for, like, you know, so long, like 13 years, and he just needed a break, and now he's coming back? Like, that would have sold it better.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, not new and better, new and improved. That's crazy. Urban Meyer. There's another guy who you don't recruit players into the NFL. So, that's Jim Harbaugh. I don't want somebody who's emotionally unstable.
Peyton Manning?
What?
Peyton Manning?
It's never going to happen.
Peyton Manning, so he can wave his dick in front of some woman in a locker room? Hey, Nationwide's not on his side either. Matt Rule from Baylor, he already said no. Matt Campbell. He's from Massillon. That's his claim to fame. You know, no, just because he put Iowa State's program on the map, not good enough. Not good enough. He's young, and he took over the program there when he was 32, but it's all offense. Dan Campbell, he interviewed for the job last year, and he wasn't even Deep Podesta's choice. And his claim to fame was he was 5-7 as an interim head coach of the Dolphins. Brian Daboll, how long before his name would come up? The offensive coordinator under who? Eric Mangina.
Oh my gosh! Remember when he was head coach? When he was offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, and he was even worse.
Oh my God! I mean, Brian Daboll, he's helped build an effective offense around Josh Allen. Wrong. He puts Josh Allen in a position where he doesn't throw the ball down the field very often. That's the extent of that. And of course, Dayball worked under Nick Saban for a season. He was under him, getting teabagged. Okay.
Oh,
Speaking of the
David
Chiefs,
Gregory just threw up Richie Kotite.
Richie Kotite.
Blast from the past.
I thought that Kotite was the name of a tampon. I swear to God, make that stop.
I think that's called hold tight.
Okay.
Mark Levy, only if you could get away with grave robbing Tom Hawley.
And Mr. Muez, let's
He's
bring
dead.
in Rudiger. We'll just bring in Rudy.
Say again.
We'll bring in
Rudy
Rudy.
Rudiger.
Oh, Rudy Rudiger? Fuck Rudy Rudiger. I hate Rudy Rudiger. I don't want to go on that again.
Not even Giuliani. Don't even bring him in either.
Please make that stop. Get this. Who needs friends? Who needs friends when you have Bieniemy? I don't want Eric Bieniemy.
He was the hot name a couple weeks ago, and all of a sudden they kind of pulled off offensively.
Yeah, and there's a guy who's pure offense who has no idea of being a head coach. Lincoln Riley, they talk about it being a head coach. He's not ready. Ron Rivera, has he officially accepted the Washington job?
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
I heard he did, but it's delayed.
It's more or less a done deal.
Okay, all right. I was just wondering if Haslam was fucking with Snyder. Sometimes this shit happens. Well, you never know because Snyder has been known to do that to other people. You throw a bunch of fucking money at Ron Rivera just to make him kind of.
Yeah,
well, every day Rex
unfortunately,
Ryan is begging for a job, so maybe we could get Rex Ryan.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I know.
That would be
I
even worse.
thought of it.
That would actually be worse than fucking McDaniels. That's the only thing worse than McDaniels fucking up the Browns would be Rex Ryan completely polluting Northeast Ohio. Fucking elephant deal with the bloviations.
We just named the entire coaching staff for like the last 30 minutes, and all we get are a bunch of no's.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's one thing my dog has in common with Rex Ryan is they both like to lick feet. All right, you have to go back and look at the headlines from.
Oh my
years
gosh,
ago.
how angry would everyone get if it was Marvin Lewis?
Oh!
And Hugh Jackson came back.
Oh my gosh, I would be done with the Browns at this point.
They'd be lining up to jump in Lake Erie.
Coordinator.
Yeah.
But Marv Levy is quite happy with his situation in Tempe, Arizona. So I don't see that happening. He's got a good gig with Herm Edwards.
I bet you could get Jason Garrett for a price of a Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Let's just name some free agents from the college Canadian Football League and see if there's any coaches available.
Yeah. Right now, what I'm concerned about is toughness. We have none, and I want somebody an offensive coordinator who will call the plays. And
we might as well get somebody from the NHL. At least they don't know how to fucking cross check.
Yeah,
well, if we got somebody from the CFL, we'd probably end up with too many men on the field penalties too frequently. So, and I realize that Freddie said we didn't practice penalties, but that's because they were just so damn good at them. So
there you go. Wilkes, all these the assistants are going to go bye-bye because whoever is the head coach has got to bring in some of his people. And if it's a defensive-minded head coach, he will bring in an underling, like a linebackers coach, as the defensive coordinator, but he's going to spend a lot of time with the defense to toughen them up. That's the way that works.
We could get the Clapper. What he's done with the Cowboys. We could have him.
Yes, Waybell, Dan Coryell is dead.
Jason Garrett is the answer for our team. I'm telling you, no one's kidding.
I'll tell you, I would
talking about the ultimate fucking yes man. Jesus Christ.
No, I would take June Lockhart before I take June Jones, Daniel. Lassie, come home. All right. It's another, Lost in Space reference,
Danger.
Yeah. And decomposing, Wabel. Now leave him alone.
In my Facebook feed, a post from years ago when they were first looking at Josh McDaniel before they hired you, and it said the comment was, "Gee, Josh McDaniels would be a good choice if he could figure out how to convince one of the Browns quarterbacks that he was actually Peyton Manning in disguise." So, kind of seems fitting nowadays that.
Yeah, I mean, I and now of course, Jarvis Landry is considering surgery 6 to 8 months out. Get the surgery. Get the fucking surgery, because honest to God, hip injuries, if you're talking about torn cartilage, we've been Isaiah Thomas in Cleveland. You want to play football, you got to get cartilage repaired. You cannot, because it'll just keep flaring up over and over again. You just need to find the right practitioner, Jarvis, but get it done, man, because we need you next year. Oh my God, no, he's not going to come back because,
Yeah, you don't want to be like Jabari Parker from the Bucks. Remember, he tore his ACL twice, and he was the same player.
Yeah, I mean, and as far as Atlanta Browns fan, the return of Greg Williams, that would be the only human being that you would hear swear more in an interview than Brian. Honest to God.
Yeah, but I would actually pick Grossi in the goddamn nuts.
Hey, Mr. Moore, we ran out of possible head coach. We went through every name in the book, and they're all knows. Why don't we just start hiring mob bosses?
Well, because that would instill a fear, but not necessarily a toughness. And, again, what this organization has lacked is toughness.
Restaurant.
Say what? I didn't hear that.
My mom used to. Speaking of mob bosses, my mom used to work for Tony Zappone in Cleveland.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe he could hire one of his offspring.
The new owner of the Rockets is a mob boss, Mr. Frittata. He has Taz, the Italian mob. Him and his dad.
And Frankie Pantangeli was a friend of mine.
A name we've danced around is a former pro coach who got to a Super Bowl, who's not having much success in college, who is a Cleveland originally guy, although he's not necessarily an Ohio guy. In Harbaugh.
No, I don't want a mentally unstable person on the team. I mean, there's a difference between discipline and OCD. I mean, you can get away with this with 19 and 20-year-old kids, but there's no way grown men are going to put up with this kind of deficiency year after year after year, We
can always bring Kevin Costner.
He was the DM. He wasn't the head coach.
Day down here. At least Dennis Leary will be entertaining as a coach.
Yeah,
no, just have Danny DeVito be the head coach. That'd be so awesome. You see, like this little guy looking like an egg, screaming at the players.
Hey, Nado, get out on the field.
Wasn't Herm Edwards the guy who picked up the fumble and ran it in for a touchdown on the bizarre
with the Eagles? Yes.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, but
he's the head coach in Arizona State.
I can't understand two of you at the same time.
Sorry.
Yes, he's the head coach at Arizona State.
Yeah, they got a bowl game tomorrow too.
Yeah. In Canton, Ohio, we had lots of mob bosses going back and forth from Canton to Steubenville. Steubenville, believe it or not, was a big mob town. So was Pittsburgh.
Really?
Yeah. Big time mob in Northeast Ohio. I did.
It was all the train route. It was all part of the train route. So it was easy to fucking bootleg shit.
Valtoria, I did talk about Saleh. He is a guy who's in my peripheral vision. I don't know enough about him, and he is inexperienced. He came up as a linebackers coach, got this D coordinator job with the 49ers. They had a good year, but boy, there just isn't enough background on the young man. He's 40 years old.
That old? I thought he was still in his 30s.
No, he's 40, and I don't know.
He's a man. He's 40.
Yeah. What I don't know is what took him so long to get up to the D coordinator position. I'm not sure about this. But again, I'm just looking at anybody who's going to make the organization tougher, because we've been soft since time almighty. It's
maybe Vince McMahon is available.
And it's funny, the guys that so many of the Browns fans, criticize Sam Bertigliano, who I love, and I make no, qualms about that, no questions about that. I've had him on the program several times. A really good guy. And you know something? Nobody was going to win with Paul McDonald, but you can always question things about Red Right 88 and all of that stuff. But Sam Bertigliano was a motivator of people who cared about his players, and they never dogged it. They did dog it, and they gave it full effort. Marty Schottenheimer, it was frustrating. He Ron Rivera us before Ron Rivera was Ron Rivera on the sidelines. He lost more last-minute games because of his conservative nature, but he was disciplined and he got the team into a position where this or that happened and maybe we could have made it into the Super Bowl. Bud Carson, 51-0 over the Steelers. That was all for Bud Carson.
Sundance has a personal question for you. So,
DirecTV shut my TV off and I need your help to restore it. Well, what sway do I have with them? That's fucking AT&T. The wrong choice. I don't know why they shut off your TV, but if you were watching the Browns, you should have shut it off a long time ago.
Yeah, save money and live streaming.
Oh,
I had a question to ask you. Browns made the playoffs back in the 2002 season. Where do you predicate that success towards? Was it towards Butch Davis, or because the players he had on his team, Tim Couch, as well as the other players that played were just your average Joes that would be considered in the NFL today?
They weren't a very good team. They sneaked in, and the guy who made the big run of the season that made it possible, it turned out falling on a knife with his girlfriend, which was a bizarre story there, William Green. It was like, run, William, run from your fucking girlfriend, run, I don't know. He was like the original Andre Rison. My house is burning down, it was that kind of a thing. But the thing about Butch Davis is that he was spying on players in the locker room, and he would never have kept that organization or team together because he lost the faith of the players because he had spies in the locker room.
Well, I know the following year they went 5-11, but I'm just saying something happened that year to where they were able to gel together and win. What was it, 10-6 or 11-5?
10-6, but I really don't. Butch Davis was one and done as far as an NFL coach was concerned. That was not.
What about the 2009 season, or was it 2010 when you guys went 10-6 and missed the playoffs?
That was 2007.
Okay, 2007. Y'all had what?
Derek Anderson, and
so it's happened before with mediocre quarterbacks.
Yeah, but they got exceptionally hot for large chunks of the season. They were on like a 7-game winning streak.
That was when Braylon Edwards learned how to catch a ball, and that was when Kellen Winslow learned how to catch. And it really helped it out. And what was that the year we got that former Ravens running back? I'm trying to think if that was
Jamal Lewis.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the year we got him, but
yeah,
I know Braylon Edwards and Kellen Winslow were a big help for that team. I'm sorry, Moose. You go ahead.
Now, I didn't mean to take you off topic, but I'm just saying that y'all have had successful seasons with the same mediocre players y'all have today. If not today, the players seem like they were better names than they were back then, and y'all had little signs of success. I'm just wondering, what were they able to do right that they can't do now with the players they have on their team now?
I think that in 2002, the culture wasn't entrenched. It was a new team coming back, and everyone expected an expansion version of the Browns to be bad in their first several years. Now it's such an entrenched cultural problem that you can't bring in a college coach and expect him to turn around guys who are veterans who have bad attitudes. As far as Sundance, there is no more retention department. I could not negotiate anything with DirecTV because AT&T has shut that down because they're a bunch of motherfucking cocksucking bastards. That's what I can tell you. I wanted to take the end of the program to get away from this and to go into something else because it's something that I will occasionally do, and I want to step out of the character that I do. I want people to understand that the cow suit, as I call it, is a great way of being able to say things that you normally in public life would never say. The internet gives me this opportunity to be this cow character who is out of control and who will say things. And, you know, I feel terrible that a 17-year-old would die on a railroad track. Okay. The character allows me the liberty. It's like being a comedian on stage. It doesn't mean that that's what George Carlin always said. So don't talk to me privately. What I do is entertainment, and what I do personally is different. I want to drop the cow suit for a minute. It's the end of another year. And at the end of years mean things to me as I get older. And I like to at least share a little bit of myself with the audience, because it makes me more human and not just a cartoon character, which is unfortunately what happens to all acts on stage. So many years have gone by, and I can tell you years that I remember just because of significance in them. 1970 was the year that I knew that I wanted to be in radio. 13-year-old kid, and I got driven by my father down to a guy's basement who had a pirate radio station that was built of equipment that he had basically stolen from all the radio stations that he'd worked at over the course of a career. And I was just mesmerized by the whole thing. And at 13 years of age, I knew that it was going to be radio for me. 1970 was a big year. You know, the years, the 1980, 1980 was a year in which I came back to Ohio, all right, from Massachusetts, from flunking out of college. 1981 was the year I got married, all right. 1985 was the year that I got my first general manager's position in radio, and I left Northeast Ohio for good in 1985 to go to Jackson, Tennessee. And then moved around out to Spokane, Washington, then to Danville, Illinois, then to Flint, Michigan. Was in Flint, Michigan from 1989 all the way up to 1997. And then on to Binghamton, New York from 1997 to 2000. 2000 was the last time I stepped in a radio station with a sport coat and a tie and a pair of slacks. And I haven't been in a radio station since. And that's been going to be 20 years. I can go on. 2007 was the year that my mother passed away after battling Alzheimer's disease for 7 years. Right. I mean, there are years that are entrenched. I mean, from a health perspective, 2015 was the last year I had a gallbladder because I ate myself out of my gallbladder. All right. And it just keeps moving up. And 2019 has a series of significances that I wanted to share with viewers. 2019 was the year that I began a recovery from a knee replacement and fought my way back into playing tennis. So it was a rebirth. But 2019 was also the year that I played my final tennis match because of an injury to my back. All right. So there's a lot of, and I'm just going to share this with you as well as you hear 2019's story as it came out. 2019 was the last year that my wife would live in my house. 2019 was the last year that I would see my 3 dogs. 2019 was an interesting year from a standpoint of having more downtime from recovering from injuries than actually having uptime. And 2019 was a year in which I had hopes for the Cleveland Browns like you did. The quote that you see on the bottom of the screen is, I think, the thing that keeps me doing this show more than anything else. People ask me, what is it with radio and you? I don't consider this a video program. I consider it a radio program. And the answer is radio is like life. The best parts of it are unscripted, even though they may be the most painful parts or the most funny parts. Life is an unscripted thing. Yeah, that's right. And this show would never be scripted. What I'm saying to you right now is not scripted. I'm not reading this. It's only of interest to me. 2019, if I'm asking questions about, starting over again, I got a lot to start over from, don't I? But 2019 wasn't just bad things. 2019 was good things too. 2019, I have met a woman who has helped me inordinately in healing from what I lost. And it's something that is a joyful thing for me. And I don't want to pull the wool over people's eyes. That person is Roxanne, okay? And this, people go, the titanium lady? And it's like, yeah, the titanium lady. That's her alter ego. But the fact is, and no, her name is not Roxanne, and no, you may not know her name. But the fact of the matter is that when I injured my back, I go back with Roxanne all the way back from virtually the middle of 2018. And we met singing on a karaoke site and just got to talking with one another. Yeah. And push come to shove, when I hurt my back in the middle of 2019, and I mean, they were afraid that I was having cardiac issues. I was having massive chest pains. I was having anxiety attacks because the thoracic part of my back was literally, the discs were just slipped, and it was creating problems in my diaphragm. There was nobody who was going to come to help me. And I thought at the time, honestly, that if I was going to have cardiac problems, I wanted to have cardiac tests, but I needed to have somebody to take care of some of my business, because if I failed the stress test, folks, they were going to ship me to the fucking hospital. It wasn't a matter of me being able to control anything. And one person stepped up, and that was Roxanne. Out of all the people that I've known in my life, that's the person who stepped up for me and dropped everything that she was doing in order to be here and to help me. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. 2019 was the year that I also made a new friend, my friend Topaz DeWolf. And let me tell you something. I've owned 5 Sheltie dogs over 25 years, and this guy is the 6th one. And I kind of want to end the show this way. He was in the show ring preparation phase because they said he was the perfect, ideal looking Sheltie, and they were training him to be a show dog. And he grew too much. And so because he grew to 16 and a half inches, he was disqualified from the show ring. And what wound up happening to the dog is in many ways what I feel happened to me. And that is, you reach a point where maybe people don't feel that they need you anymore for whatever reason. And the dog was a commodity. The dog was nothing more than just a symbol of beauty to somebody. And once it was no longer of value, once that it could not bring favor and grace to the owners in their social circle, well, then by God, it was done for the dog. The dog had nowhere to go. I found out about the dog because I've dealt with the breeder before and brought the dog here on a trial basis. 8.5 months old, and the dog's name was Brady, and he didn't know his own name. I called him by his name, and he didn't recognize his own name. Now, after 4.5, 5 days in this house, he's Topaz the Wolf. He knows his name. And cool. I'm watching him slowly but surely open up and trust the people that are around him. And for the first time, he's making human connections in his life, as opposed to being trained in the show ring, stuffed in a crate, thrown in the backyard to take a shit, and then come back into the crate again. He is socializing with people and with animals. And he starts over, I start over. And go ahead, Stephen.
I didn't want to interrupt because what you said just touched me. I just wanted you to fill in the gap real quickly. When you left in 2002, and you said that was your quote unquote your last time in the radio.
2000.
Oh, okay, 2000. So fill in the gap from the rest of that time just real quickly. Where did you go after that, and when did you find YouTube? How did you find YouTube? How did that? What year did you come across YouTube?
I left the radio business in 2000 and bought a secondary home in Stowe, Vermont. And my ex-wife and I lived in Vermont. And in 2004, I had a horrible reaction. My mother was declared, with Alzheimer's disease and was at a point where there was no coming back. And my first Sheltie, Marky the Wolf, was dying of heart disease. And the damn doctor gave me an antidepressant that just whacked me out completely. And I started having panic attacks. When I came back to Florida, I said, I got to do something to keep myself busy. And what I knew was radio. And I said, you know something? There is this thing called audio podcasting, which was a new thing back then. And it was like, I knew Adam Curry, who was the former VJ over at MTV. Adam and I got to know one another through the radio business. Wow. And he started up a site called Podcast Alley. This goes all the way back into the early 2000s. Podcast Alley was where it was what was called an aggregator, where all these audio podcasts kind of came together and you could listen to them. And so I said, this is great. How do I do this? And so I taught myself basically with equipment, and I was using professional radio equipment to deliver an audio only podcast. Then that morphed as bandwidth became more available into video podcasting. This is, in fact, the longest running podcast in Northeast Ohio sports. And I'll go one step further. This may well be the longest continuously running podcast in history. All right? I don't know anybody who's been doing this longer without quitting and making the transition from audio to video and working with so many people and so many systems. So during those years, it was going back and forth to Vermont, doing this show and getting that started. And then eventually selling the condo up in Vermont and buying a house in South Carolina, which unfortunately was the scene of too many bad things for me, as far as a bike accident, which is what finally finished off my knee and forced me into a knee replacement, and other back issues from a slip and fall accident in the kitchen in that home in South Carolina. And quite honestly, I mean, my ex-wife was living in that house. God bless her. It's like, it's a beautiful home. And
your chair ranting about, I forgot which head coach it was. Was it Shermer?
What about?
Or Krzyzewski? Somebody you were ranting about. You fell off your chair, remember, and hurt yourself.
Oh yeah. That was another great moment for the history of the show. Me falling off my chair.
What year did you find YouTube? What year did you find YouTube?
YouTube, because of Hangouts, was the thing that I started a couple of years ago, and then they ended up terminating the damn thing. Thank God for people at StreamYard and at Zoom, who I work with now. that we're able to keep this show going. And what's nice about both of them is they give me the opportunity to work not only and now with the StreamYard to stream to both YouTube and Facebook simultaneously. So it's kind of a technology continues to move forward, and I try to stay with technology. So, what I want to tell you is this: if Bruce Springsteen is right, all right, because everything dies. The one thing I can tell you about radio and life, like I said, it is unscripted. You don't know what's around the next corner, something bad, something good, all right? But if everything that dies someday comes back, then stop and listen to what I'm saying and look at the Cleveland Browns and say to yourself, if all these things in my life are possible, all right, if a 13-year-old kid who went into a pirate radio station could end up retiring at 43 years of age and never having to work again for love of the radio industry and doing this program for what's going on 16 years now out of my love for broadcasting and keep that going. And my marriage lasted 37 years, and God bless those 37 years. Some of the greatest times of my life in those years. No hard feelings. Hurt, yes. Hard feelings, no. Because everything that dies someday comes back. And it may come back in a slightly different form and in a slightly different way. But I'm finding my way back. If I can do this and go through this in 2019, the Cleveland Browns have nothing to worry about. And the fans have nothing to worry about, because it's a much easier chore to repair your organization after one disappointing year than it is to try to piece your life back together after 37 years, or to try to figure out what to do with your life after all those years in broadcasting. So that's what I can tell you. Cleveland fans, don't despair, because everything that dies in some form will come back. So thanks to everybody. And I see that Adam has a channel on YouTube. I'll have to get in touch with him. And that's right, Kevin. We'll end up this way. Yeah, my co-host, Spinner Dave, got arrested for lack of child support in the middle of a Moohead radio program. Honest to God, I can't make this show. They took him away in handcuffs. Honest to God, in the middle of the show.
Wow. That should be a reality show right there. An episode show.
Well, I want to wish everybody a happy 2020. And, we look forward to things, and we look backwards and we look forwards. And now it's forward for Browns fans. Things will get better eventually. And if not, if it doesn't get better for you as a Browns fan, you'll find another way. You'll find something else. Believe me, it will come back to you, but maybe in a different form. All right. Maybe you'll need to find your Topaz the Wolf. Who knows? Or your Roxanne. I know she wouldn't appreciate being compared to the dog, but it's the point that's made is that, you'll discover something in the Cleveland Browns that hopefully that you will love as much as what made you love them in the first place. Happy New Year to everybody. Enjoy your New Year celebration. Don't drive and drink at the same time. Don't even risk it. Be safe, be happy, and be healthy. I'll be back with you next year on the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. And maybe we'll have time to talk a little bit more about the Cleveland Browns coaching search. We got nothing but time, it appears.
And Mr. Moohead, can we also cover the wild card games and do our picks on them on Friday?
Yes, we absolutely can do that. Okay. So, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again on Friday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastureheads. Good night.
2020.
Happy New Year.